Welcome back. Week one of Washington's 2026 legislative session is over. As week two approaches, let's take a look at some of the biggest bills and controversies to pass through Olympia this week. First, lawmakers heard testimony on a bill that would change how Washington sentences repeat offenders. Right now, Washington's 3 strikes law can send someone to prison for life after 3 serious felonies, even if one of those happened when they were a teen. Senate Bill 5945 would change that and could let about 24 inmates ask a judge to revisit their life sentences. Critics say this bill would put the public at risk.
Would it make it okay if the drunk driver, rapist, robber, or murderer was under 18? Would the victim be any less violated, traumatized, or dead? No. So if the outcome is the same for the victim, why is it different for the perpetrators?
Immigration is also a top issue for Washington lawmakers. Several bills were introduced in the House and Senate, including one that would block state and federal law enforcement from wearing face masks. Senate Bill 5855 would also allow people detained by masked officers to sue for damages.
Masks are being used to obscure identities, to escalate tensions, to stoke fears, to deny public transparency, and to shield government from accountability. That can't happen here.
Another bill introduced by the Senate related to law enforcement would add more eligibility requirements for sheriffs. The bill was met with resistance from local law enforcement leaders like Pierce County Sheriff Keith Swank.
When you try to remove me from office, thousands of Pierce County residents will surround the county city building in downtown Tacoma and will not allow that to happen.
Now, Washington's top law enforcement group is weighing whether to expel Sheriff Swank over those remarks. King 5's Brady Wakayama reports.
It was short, just a minute and a half, but Pierce County Sheriff Keith Swank's testimony before lawmakers during yesterday's Senate Law and Justice Committee hearing is sparking concern. The Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs says the remarks could be perceived as threatening to lawmakers. Have you ever seen or heard anything like this within a committee hearing like that?
Never have and hope to never see it again.
Democratic State Senator John Lovick from the 44th District says he is still reeling after a tense encounter with one of Washington's top law enforcement leaders.
It was more disappointing for all of us to hear a leader of the second largest sheriff's office in the state make comments like that. It was very, very disappointing.
Pierce County Sheriff Keith Swank slammed a bill sponsored by Senator Lovick, who has nearly 40 years of experience within law enforcement. The bill proposes raising the bar for law enforcement leaders. It would set minimum age and experience requirements, mandate background checks, and add new oversight. Supporters say it's about accountability. Critics call it government overreach. Here's what Sheriff Swank said.
I don't recognize your authority to impose these controls over me. And when you try to remove me from office, thousands of Pierce County residents will surround the county city building in downtown Tacoma and will not allow that to happen. I hope it doesn't come to that, but I and they are prepared. Are you prepared?
The Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs says Sheriff Swank's testimony does not represent the organization, and it will consider expelling Swank. The group released a statement Thursday saying, in part, the scope of his testimony went beyond reasonable dialogue and devolved into what could be perceived as threatening to legislators, and he challenged their constitutional authority. Swank fired back on X saying, quote, this is what happens when you don't toe the party line.
Sometimes you might not respect the person, but you have to respect the institution. And I think to disrespect the institution of the legislature is very, very terrible for all of us.
And we reached out to both Sheriff Swank and the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs for interviews today, but neither wanted to comment further on the matter. In the newsroom, Brady Wakayama, King 5 News.